Welcome to Baseball is on Deck. I am Mark Corbett, and with me is the Mr. Matt Germain. How you doing, buddy?
I'm crying in my soup because the Rays won't win me games,
Oh
Mark.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, I was having this discussion with my wife Karen earlier today, and it was about pronouns. Pronouns are kind of a touchy thing for people. And as a fan of the Rays, you can find people going back and forth between their pronouns. It's we and they. So we, the Rays, are they, those Rays? Which pronoun, as a fan, are you using today?
I use the pronoun those guys.
Those guys. Yeah. We can't take ownership for everything that did. Man, man, oh man.
Love it.
Oh, before we end the show today, since we're just starting, remind me to tell you a story I read about Lou Piniella and Bill Gates. And we'll get to that a little later on. My gosh, but the Rays, it's been insane. They looking so good for so long, and they go out to California, and I don't know if they just can't adjust to the time out there or what, but it has not been what we would hope from that team.
I think it's too many distractions. I don't know. There must be something over there they're doing in Los Angeles. I don't know what there is to do.
Oh,
Maybe they're being boxed in by traffic, like there's something going on. But honestly, Mark, I don't know if I've ever t like kept track of how successful West Coast trips are for the Rays
yeah.
on an annual basis. But I remember it as like generally, right? It always is harder for the teams that go from east to west than west to east generally,
Yeah.
because you're able to adjust the time more easily when you're moving from west to east. You're able to go to bed a bit earlier and then you're good to go, sort of thing. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of it. What I will say is the Rays are competitive. It's not like the pitching's falling apart. It's more the offense, like we've spoken about before, where that extra, timing issue and
Mhm.
that extra player being hot at the right time, they're just not able to get that right now.
It has been hurting with that, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's great to have great expectations. For instance, today, oh my gosh, you never know what's going to happen in the game. And here we are, the Dodgers, the last game up there in the series, and we have bases loaded, two outs, and lo and behold, Cedric comes up there and he's got to do it, and suddenly he is at a 3-2 count. And my gosh, that is baseball because he can go ahead and bring everybody in and make a great game for the Rays and get them that one extra run they need to tie it up and possibly do a lot more damage so that the Dodgers would have to do a lot more. Those are the moments that bring a lot of excitement and a heck of a challenge. Unfortunately, Cedric was not able to close the door on that. And it's baseball, right? Okay, I keep telling myself that. Huh. You made a comment today about a shortstop for the Rays, Mr. Taylor
Mhm.
Wallace. You and I have bandied back and forth about that poor young man, and he has shown so much promise. Go ahead and in defending, but when it comes time to be, I don't know if he's above the Mendoza line or not, but he has not really performed, I think, much higher than that.
Right. Well, for me, it's more of the slug, right? And the consistency of the underperformance. So if we look at just his career overall, right? Like on an annual basis, we hold out the flame of hope and we expect him to potentially take a step forward. And generally, he has moments here and there where he chips in, and that's great. He's getting on base a tiny bit more than he had in the past. So
Mhm.
I think his previous career high was like 314, and this year he's at 319. So like a smidgen. But his slug has gone down to the lowest ever in his career. Well, I think there might be one instance where he was lower, but it's a 280. So what happens there is even if you're the ninth hole hitter and you can't maintain a 300 slug at a minimum or above,
Yeah.
you're really holding you're basically giving your lineup a little bit of a NL pitcher sort of feel, which is not good, and it's not what a manager wants. He doesn't have a single home run this year. His ISO is well below one. So basically, he's not hitting for any power whatsoever overall. And he keeps swinging like he wants to hit homers, right? And that's my beef with it all is I can look at Chandler Simpson and I know he's trying to be himself, even though it doesn't always turn out. He's going through a serious cold spell right now.
Yeah.
And so there's reproaches there, but he's being himself. He's playing the game that he knows how to play best. With Taylor Walls, I have the same beef with him as I had with Carlos Gomez. He treats the game like he's supposed to be hitting home runs. He's not.
Yeah.
Like he never will be. Like stop. Just be yourself on the field. Like hit it when there are stretches of time when he's taking what the pitchers give him and he goes with the short knocks and the hits and the hits the gaps. Those are the times when I enjoy watching Taylor Walls, even when he drops a bunt, because he's being the style player that he should be. But every time that he starts swinging long and trying to go for the big power, I find like there's just something holding that part of his game back, and I don't know what it is. If the lineup was dominant, if Taylor Walls played for the Dodgers, right, it wouldn't be a big issue. But the Rays are the kind of team that need production from their best positions when it comes to the offense.
Yep.
And that's where having Wander Franco was supposed to be, a
You
significant.
invoked that name. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
continue.
I know. I brought it out.
That's why Wander Franco, and now that I interrupted you.
Yeah. And then Carson Williams is another one, right? Where I think he hit his seventh home run of the season in
Yeah.
Durham, and that's his number, oddly enough. So he he's got the strikeout issues, and so the defensive play can be there. They're moving him around the infield, but I feel like the Rays really need that offensive shortstop ability. And there's so many other guys that are struggling at the plate right now for them, like Richie Palacios, Ben Williamson. There's a lot of drag on the lineup. Having said that, there's hope. Johnny DeLuca is back in AAA doing his rehab.
Good.
He looks like he's going to be back for the weekend, right? So unless there's a setback, and Jacob Melton has been playing in rookie league. I think he's getting moved up right now, unless there was a setback. You never know why they're not playing the next game. I just know that he did really well in the game that he did play, in the rookie level or the two games. He hit a couple of extra base hits, had a couple of hits and a stolen base, I believe. So those two guys for the outfield, when you're looking at amping it up, let's say Johnny DeLuca comes back. If they wanted to give Chandler Simpson a reboot and give him a little bit of time in AAA, that might be the thing to do.
Mm.
Richie Palacios has been making some stellar plays defensively, but again, offensively, he could use a rehash. So at some point, if he keeps struggling the way he is, maybe you bring up Jacob Melton and you give him a shot. And what both of those guys do also, which is something that in June has hurt the Rays a lot, is help out defensively. Like the Rays have the
Yeah.
third worst defense in the league over the last 17 days. So it also brings light to how stellar the pitching has been. Because if you're struggling like that in terms of the defense and you're
Yeah.
still keeping the scores tolerable and low and the pitching's been great, like that's impressive. That shows you some good positive vibes that you can build on and hope will turn things around the second half of June.
Well, Drew did a good job the other day facing, the Dodgers. He gave up a run. Only one. Who was it? Oh, it was Otani. Otani. And oh
Who's
my
that
gosh. I want to talk about him in a minute, but I was so encouraged to see that was the only thing that would be given up. I said there was nothing on the board for the Rays in that game. There was just a one home run from Otani. So yes, what's happening? But let me come back to defensively. Right now, if we look at the All-Star ballot, who's leading the third baseman in the American League? It is Junior Caminero.
guy?
And what I've seen as of late, I would not necessarily put him there. There's a couple things I think that people forget, and I was just checking a little bit on this earlier. If I looked at the errors committed thus far this year, let's see, the Angels, Neto has got 13, and Washington, let's see, Abrams has got 12, Adames has 12, Caminero is fourth with 10, and then Otto Lopez is with him there too with 10. And I remember that one game earlier in the year with the Brewers, and Junior gave up had 3 errors in that game. It was like April 1st or something. It was early in the year, and that would make sense. It was April Fool's Day, but I'm looking at it, and then this week, and I guess I'm hyper attentive to that on him. When I saw recently a ball that Walls should have got, it's like Caminero got in front of it. It was like, let me get over in your area where the shortstop is, and kind of blew a play there that Walls was not able to get to. Then was it yesterday or the day before? Valade, he's got one. He's coming in from left field, and Caminero comes right out there like he's almost going to run right into him. Valade, he's not able to get the ball because it looks like they're going to run into one another. And I don't know if Junior still has to have a presence of where he is in the field, what his job is in the field. I know he's hungry and ambitious and ready to contribute, but much like you said, with a batter who just expects to hit home run each time, that isn't what we need from you all of the time. And I was almost a little, I'll say it again, I think I was a little surprised to see Junior Caminero right up there as the top ballot for third baseman in the American League All-Star ballot right now.
I'm not surprised at all, just because like it's a show, right? Like the All-Star game is a show. So who do you want in the home run derby? Like hey, there's only so many guys that
Right.
can actually knock the ball out of the park on a consistent basis. He's 22 years old. Well, I think sometimes we're a little bit too hard on the young players. I can remember Bobby Cox when Jason Hayward was coming up, and
Yeah.
people were very hard on him. And he was like, "Guys, just give him some time to breathe and give him some time to grow. You're gonna love him." And and he did the same for Chipper and other guys. There's a time frame for errors to be, I don't want to say ignored, but overlooked. So, like last year, the second half, I even had a conversation with JJ Cooper about Junior Caminero online, where I was like, for the second half, he looked like he was above average when it came to his defensive play.
Right.
And he was really playing to that point because he had put in the work. He was being consistent, like you pointed out. That's part of what you want. And I don't know if it's because of the first half having eased him into that kind of, okay, now I've got the repetitions and I'm getting used to it and things are going good, right? But there's also the learning curve of consistency with young players and staying focused and being able to do it month after month, game after game, year after year. That part, I hope, anyway, will come. And Junior comes off to me as somebody that will definitely continue putting in the work. Like you said, he has enthusiasm. He's very focused on being one of the best in the game. And that's the other part is if you look at, let's say, isolated power, on base percentage, weighted runs created, he's in the top three of the third baseman in the league for all three of those at 22 years old. So when you're projecting what he will be in his prime, he's going to be a superstar across the board. So I think that's what fans are feeding on is the hype of that helium that Junior Caminero has as he's getting acclimated in the league. And yeah, he's just likable. Like his personality, the
Yeah.
flair, he loves to pimp the home runs a little bit and give it a little, extra long stroll around. I remember Edwin Encarnacion used to walk the parrot. Junior Caminero has his own sort of style when he's going around the bases. So I think that the fans like him. I think that's clearly it's a reflection of the fans just liking Junior Caminero.
Yeah. And rightfully so. So I was glad to see that. But coming back to the Dodgers again, like I said, with Otani, I didn't realize what all had been happening with him as far as home runs. And I think it was like the last 7 games, he's had 4 home runs. And I was like, good gravy. So again, looking at Drew the other day, I was like, I get that. But Otani had another record day today, and I don't think it was one he'd like to repeat. And I believe, was it 4 or 5 hits that he gave up to the Rays all at once? And I don't think he's done that ever in one inning. Uh, that's
But
just, mm.
I predicted that a little bit in the first inning. He was so dominant in the first inning. He had
Yeah.
some rise on that two-seamer. He was really on. And a lot of times what I find, especially with pitchers that are, I don't want to say worn, but they have a lot of things on their mind and a lot of innings, a lot of whatever. They tend to wear out their pitches a little bit earlier in the game than you would expect. So
Yeah.
along comes the fifth, and all of a sudden the Rays are on top of it because it's that all those pitches have lost 1, 2 miles per hour, and he spent the whole first part of the game speeding up their bats. So, the two meet and then you get that kind of collision. But it's amazing to see him work on the mound
Oh
and
yeah.
on the field. Like honestly, if you're going to pay the ridiculous money they charge for some baseball tickets nowadays,
Yeah.
he's one of those guys that if he's coming to your town, like get out there and watch him because I still don't think Major League Baseball has done a good enough job hyping Shohei Ohtani. Like honestly, like would you say Shohei Ohtani is as hyped as the biggest stars in football and basketball right now when you
No.
look across the US? Like
No.
is he anywhere near? Like how
No.
that he's not everywhere?
Well, we should have had him dating Taylor Swift long ago, and that would have helped. But but seriously, I mean,
Olivia Rodrigo. Can we get Olivia Rodrigo
ooh, there
to a
we
baseball
go.
game?
A little bit more contemporary. I like that because starting to
Uh,
age myself here, and poor Taylor as well. But no, but I mean the Kelsey brothers are out there all the time, with
mhm.
or without Taylor. I mean they got their own podcasts, but I don't see the clubs really promoting the players that much. I think sometimes players and owners are sometimes at an adversarial position in baseball, and part of that's just contracts coming up, and that can be part. But you would think that would be the same in football as well, wouldn't you? I mean, I don't know, maybe not.
What, so what is a good, so one of the things like I think marketing wise, right? Remember that movie that they put out about Nike, how they came to be as such a huge company and how the Michael Jordan story sort of fed that?
Yeah,
Baseball needs that with Shohei, with some company of some sort. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what product. I don't know. Like, obviously, it can't be running shoes because they don't wear running shoes on the field. Um, but that maybe that's the problem is that there's no regular everyday product or brand that you associate with baseball that is used everywhere across the board. I'll give you an example, like Adidas, right? If you think soccer, you think Adidas,
right.
right? You think tennis, you think Adidas. You think basketball, you think Nike. Well, what is the brand for baseball?
Nothing.
The
I
last
got
time
nothing.
I remember a brand associated with baseball was that ridiculous World Baseball Classic when numbers and names were falling off the jerseys. Or the see-through jerseys that they switched out in
Oh
Major League
my
Baseball because they
gosh.
wanted to cheapen it, right? So baseball is not only promoting its products and players correctly, they're they're going backwards. They're like, okay, these are not jerseys we want to buy.
Yeah, why don't we go to the point of where, you have a little chaw in your in the mouth there. We can do that, whatever, it's a skull, baby.
Right.
Have a little pack of that to hit tobacco organization. And then let's see, what else can we do? Well, that would
The
be
only
one. Hmm?
that we have on our heads, Mark.
Oh yeah, these books. Yeah, that's right, man. Well,
That is the product, really. Like that's the only thing you can say across the board. So I'll give you an example in terms of like my daughters were part of a dance group, right? And I was like, you guys should make hats and sell them and be, even for the girls and
hmm
the boys. And you look around in the town that I live in, we're in Nova Scotia, the west coast of Nova Scotia. And the girls love to wear hats that say LA, the LA Dodger hats. And the New York, because why? Because they're in all the branded stores or whatever but they won't wear any other teams because those are not the cool cities, right? So it's not about the baseball hat, it's just about the style in the cities that are named and because they recognize those logos.
Not because you're on
So
the West Coast.
right, but that should be amplified. That should be
Yeah.
amped up to the point where you're actually promoting things a lot more. and building off of it, right? Well, if you want the hat, buy this jersey with it. Yada, yada, yada. Get yourselves into more stores than just at the MLB shops,
Yeah.
right? I don't know.
Yeah. We do. There's definitely something that needs to be done there, and I'm not intelligent enough at this moment to be able to add the solution for the world on this. I'd love to say that I would. I mean, some of the things you see teams try is the interesting names they give for use the minor league teams. They'll have a mascot named team. Was it, believe it or not, in Kentucky, the team there, the mascot name is the Mashers, like bourbon mash. So they're the mashers. And
Right.
so a lot of these teams have that. And it's another way of trying to find another product to sell. But it's
I'll give you an example, Mark. Sorry, I just came to mind and I was like,
please.
you know what? This would work. Lululemon, right? They make those yoga things, whatever. Major League Baseball should come to an agreement with Lululemon where they sell hats that are made by Lululemon with MLB jerseys, right? MLB logos, I mean, and the jerseys, but in Lululemon fabrics, so that they sell both the hats and the jerseys or the t-shirts, whatever you want to make it, that are of Lululemon material. So then you're getting the quality of Lululemon, etc. You're getting, extremely high-end marketing company that is recognized by women everywhere. So now you're getting women into the sport as well as, that kind of forward-looking relationship building with companies that gets you there because that could then become that brand that you go and you can have
Right.
one that is more aimed towards the male population as well. Um, but I feel like that is what Major League Baseball is missing. Like they're not capitalizing as much as they should on what is one of the biggest stars in all of the sporting world. Can you imagine if Ronaldo or Messi were just ignored completely by their league? Like it's essentially what's happening, right? Like where, yeah, we've got this mega star, but we're just gonna let it lag and not really amp him up to the same level as Jordan, Gretzky, and the rest of them were back in the 80s. I, I'm
We got to
baffled.
get a marketing person on here to go into that because somebody who can maybe give us a little better analysis of that.
Hmm.
Um, it would be fun to have back on. I need to reach out to her. And that's Jane Levy. She's always got a neat perspective on something like this and seeing what is working and not working in baseball. I'll reach out to her tomorrow and see if we get her on here soon again. She's a lot of fun. Jeez, Manelli. Oh, brother. Well, if we're still looking at the Rays, I do want to reflect on something that's coming up a month from now, and that's a Longo weekend. It's going to be Evan Longoria, middle of next month, and a whole big celebration, retiring his number. And I just can't wait to hear Tantric with that down and out walk up music that he always had. You remember that violin fiddle? I kept thinking it at first. I thought, well, is that Jethro Tull because of the violin at first, and then later on finding out Tantric. The energy that came with that, I mean, it was almost empowering to all of us in fandom when we heard it as he came up to the plate. So they're actually going to be playing it live during the event. I can't wait to see that. That should be a lot of fun. But Longo, let's see. I could bring this up here, brother. Let's see. Longo. I was just the statistics on him. I knew another California boy, thinking about him, and I always think about the Glass now from being out there to my favorite Californians from the on the Rays. I hadn't really thought about what he had achieved all in his career, and he having played, 1,986 games. Wow, wouldn't have taken that much more to get to 2,000 on that. 7,306 at bats, 342 home runs, an OPS 804. See on base percentage 333. And it's quite a record. And he was missed when he left. I know people. It's like a lot of times you lose a favorite player, and there were people who were saying, "I will never see another Rays game again." I guess this was probably one of Eric Neander's earlier decisions, one of his first couple of years being with the Rays.
Mhm.
Man, This guy was something else. And I'm glad they're going to honor him with that, with the posting of his number, retiring his number, I should say, with the Rays. And that should be coming out here in just the middle of next month. So, guys, check for your tickets on that. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, like when they build the new stadium, do you feel like they'll have either a statue or a memento, a plaque of some sort set up in a certain area? Like that's something you can think about when
Yeah.
you're actually developing that stadium is like, how are we going to honor our players? I loved what the Yankees old stadium had done, with that area where you can actually go and see all the different area. I think Camden Yards does the same thing where when you're walking in, you can actually go off and see the mementos to the greats. It'll be great. I'll be watching it from afar. They asked me to sing a song to everyone, but I was like, "Oh, I'm busy. My voice isn't what it used to be. I have a lasagna in the oven, all that stuff."
Oh,
No, but
oh,
I'm really happy you're like you that they're actually honoring him, that they're going ahead with it. It should have happened a long time ago,
no doubt.
probably the day that he retired or the month after. But I think that I like a lot of people, I believe it's too bad that his career was cut short through injuries, a little bit like Andrew Jones, where he slowed down quite a bit as his career went on the other side of 30. I would have loved to have seen him healthy all the way through to 38,
Yeah.
40, because I think he would have had that Adrian Beltre sort of overall career, right? Yeah, he's a stellar. You talk about somebody being committed to a franchise
Hmm.
at the time when that franchise needed it, he was the perfect go-to guy. So once he is inducted the way he is and honored, I hope he has a role with the Rays for the rest of his working period of time that he wants to do it.
I was so happy that they signed a 1-day contract with him so he could finish his career as a Ray. I thought that was one of the best things I've seen the Rays ever do. He supported the Rays. I think he put himself second to anything that he would come out of the front office. Uh, we've missed him here. There's no doubt about it. So I am happy that they're going to honor him with this, and I hope to be there for it as well. Got so much going on because next month I'm looking at July 21st through 25th being in Rockford when the USA Women's National Team is going to be there for the World Stage Group level and playing other teams from across the world, including Canada, probably Australia. Uh, there's going to be another group stage, I forget, somewhere over in Asia. So from there, that's going to be interesting in July 26th to 30. I'm looking maybe going to St. Louis and seeing the Cardinals in September, Springfield, Illinois. That is going to be the beginning of the inaugural season, if you will, of the Women's Pro Baseball League. Now, what's interesting is between Rockford with the USA Women's National Team and with the Women's Pro Baseball League, you will find some of those players playing on both of those. They will be, and then if you want to add another dimension, let's say at least four of them are with Savannah Banana teams. So these women baseball players are playing for the USA. They're playing for the Women Pro Baseball League, and some are playing for the Savannah Bananas. And I don't doubt there's probably one or two. They're maybe even going to have a collegiate team that they're representing as well. But it's quite should be quite the summer for women's baseball with that. And by the way, we did just have an interview with a couple of the folks, one from the International Women's Baseball Center, and that was with Ryan Woodward talking about what's coming up. And then another one recently with Mary Fiddler from the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. And what I wanted to talk to her about, Matt, was they were looking at having an expansion league going into the South, in the U.S. South, but also into South America. And they actually toured with some of that. I mean, a little bit like barnstorming, and they were looking at actually establishing something like that. And I thought, well, man, that's what we need. Maybe that Women's Pro Baseball League will take on an international flair. Uh, the All-Americans, because of the way some things changed with management of the organization, didn't have the same strength of it as a pursued along. Certain key players were not there anymore. By key players, I mean executives who are making decisions about marketing and paying more to get great talent in.
You
But
know what it brings to my mind, Mark,
what's that?
is when the Negro Leagues were around, one of the things that they used to do is to travel,
Oh
right? So
yeah.
they went to Japan, they went to different areas, and I would imagine it strengthened the league in general in terms of getting them exposure and different playing time, and it spread the love of the game to certain areas that probably ended up helping to grow the game. If you're the women's league that's starting up right now and you want to do the things the way that they're doing them in a concentrated area, concentrated amount of time, so that you get the best players with the minimal amount of overhead costs, it really should be a year-round league
Hmm.
with like set up tournaments in key moments in time that they're able to set them up. Maybe you do three of them a year, right? Every 4 months, there's another tournament. In a certain area that's strategically placed where eventually you want to have a franchise. So I'll give you an example. Like if they go to Vegas, I'm positive that they would be able to get some good
Right.
playing all those areas with that they feel eventually they'll have franchises if they want to promote a certain stadium where an own future owner wants to take a look and potentially invest in that league. You do a tournament in that location and then
Mm.
you move on, right? And it builds the momentum of the league as a whole. You can set up the TV coverage in any stadium, really. Like they're all preset for that kind of thing. So really, it just becomes a timing issue with the stadium being available.
Wow. Yeah, I can see where that could happen. And I'm thinking more and more because there's key players here that if they're doing so many different things, sometimes it's difficult if you're not just in one league to get the continuity, if you will, of the image of those players out there. So I am so thankful that they have multiple opportunities to do things. But like you're talking about being able to do something like almost barnstorming, if you will, across the U.S., that might be a way to go for the Women's Pro Baseball League. And
Mm.
what was it? I don't have the exact numbers on this. I believe I heard once that Satchel Paige, he wouldn't go to Major League Baseball because he was able to generate so much more what he was doing with barnstorming and his own that way. So I don't know. I'm probably speaking out of turn here, but what I'm getting at is that we need to find a way for women's baseball to be consistently being out there, be continual sponsorship, and make that happen. But
I'll give you an example, right? Like
please,
in Canada, baseball and softball are both very popular. You've got Rogers Center not being used majority of the time in November. Schedule a tournament in November in Rogers Center, promote it on both in the Detroit and in Toronto and Canada in general, broadcast it on Rogers. They own the stadium. They'll
yeah.
be willing participants, right? Like set that up as a potential location that you would want to have your league in.
Hmm.
I guarantee you'll get a lot of promotion, and because it's indoors, it won't be impacted. Another one is in Tampa at the Trop. Set a tournament up at the Trop. I guarantee you the Trop owners will want to recoup some of that roofing cost, and they'll gladly welcome you, especially if you're doing it at a time when the it's not being used for other purposes. So let's say you set up that tournament in January. You have another period of time where I see it right now as in you're collecting money and building up hype and building up marketing to the
Right.
point where you can get brands in. And like an artist, the way that they make their money is with concerts. Well, you're trying to get as many people in the seats, in the parking lots, in the eating the concessions,
Yeah.
etc., to generate some revenue that you can use later on to kind of build up on the next step. So again, if you want to build up this league to the point where you can have a full league, let's say 12 teams, a full season of some sort, that might be the way that you build up to that so that you can have the 12 owners. The other thing I'd point out, Mark, there are ownership styles, like the Green Bay Packers are a good example, right? Where it is not owned by one person. The Women's Baseball League should go to all that model because then the cities they own that team. It
Right.
doesn't have to be a wealthy owner. If you could set up a league like the Green Bay Packers are, it might be the strongest league of them all because the way they're run is completely different than what, a for-profit, let's say you want to call it that, sort of organization would be. So what it does is it doesn't allow the ownership to pocket all of the profits to the point where the prices of tickets and concessions and everything blows out of proportion to the point where you're not growing the game as much as you probably otherwise could because it's about the profits in those cases, right? So that's another suggestion I would make on the women's baseball league front is that if they're able to do that and just lean on that style of ownership and the marketing and TV rights and gambling, those things are still good
Oh
revenue
yeah.
for the league, then they wouldn't be, I think, as hung up on, oh, I need to make this kind of profit to have a team there, right? It lowers that threshold quite significantly.
Well, no, that sounds like a good plan and a path that should be considered. And maybe hopefully they're already doing that because
Mm.
it's you can't do this as a cookie cutter thing. This is the market is diverse enough out there. I mean, I was looking at something today. Once upon a time when there were newspapers and nothing else, yeah.
I
Uh,
miss newspapers, Mark. I do.
uh,
I miss newspapers.
Well, I liked them because there were stories you'd see and you would go to a jump page, could be continued on, and there'd be three other stories that maybe you wouldn't even thought about reading, but something fresh. So it
Yeah.
wasn't an algorithm necessarily putting you say, oh, you need to see this. But I miss that part of it. Plus, I'm now that I'm doing so much research on Shushu using newspapers.com, and it reminds me how much newspapers used to cover community sports boys, girls games, all the local recreation leagues, all of that was in there. And I mean, those things are still going on, those activities. But when you had one source that you went to for all of that, it was more people could find it at one place and see the same story as to the kind of a shotgun effect with the multimedia and internet and everything else to be.
Well, I would go even further, Mark, if we're going to evaluate newspapers. So I would argue that, let's say my grandfather, right, reading a newspaper every day, probably did more reading in the course of a month than most people do in a year nowadays,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And that's just reading newspapers. So we can talk about educating yourself and learning how to write, how to read, how to, yeah, facts about the world, political facts, geography, um, even entertainment, right? There's a lot of stories that you were going to find in there, uh, and local as well,
Hmm.
that you otherwise would never come across. But it gave you a floor for reading abilities and focus and time to actually consider the world out
Yep.
there. So there was like a zen period of time. You're reading the paper. A lot of times when I read the paper, it was always on my way to work or something like that. And you're having breakfast, and that's what you have. You have your breakfast, you have your paper, and you're in that zone, and you're just like you're zen. And people don't have that kind of um, time frame as much anymore. I find it's more, oh, I'm on my device, which is a different relationship than a newspaper. And I doom scroll, right? So I'm
Yeah.
constantly bombarded by people telling me what to do, what I should like, and it's all in video format. Video format has been proven that you're not learning in the same way and using as many parts of your brain as you otherwise would. That includes everything from imagination to your ability to think of things logically and use your cognitive sense abilities. Like you need that kind of time to evaluate things. So I'm sad for newspapers. I hope at some point there's a way to bring them back in some form,
Yeah.
uh, because I feel like the other thing that they were was accessible, right? So you went to a restaurant, they were sitting there, and you just grabbed one at a doctor's office, at a in the mall or whatever. Like you were able to find them everywhere, and
Yeah.
that had its own value as well because when you had some downtime, you wanted to kind of busy yourself, you were able to just grab one and go. I would say also the thing that it did was keep the world accountable, right? Like we need a little bit more of that, Mark. We need
Yeah,
we
that'd be nice. That'd be nice. I
yeah.
mean, the thing of it is too, it was part of a ritual for a lot of people. They
Mhm.
expected to have that newspaper at their door at 6 a.m. in the morning when they would go and they would sit down, as you were saying, with a cup of coffee and they would scroll through it. I knew people that on Sunday, when they get that big, thick paper, they would sit down and they may take all the way into mid-afternoon,
Yeah.
continually going through each section, reading each story.
Mhm.
And that was I think a well-read population is an intelligent population and can make better decisions than people who read something scantily across the internet or 10-second or even a 2-minute short on YouTube. You know, those sort of things. They're distractions to what's going on. We don't take enough time to understand what's going on at the depth. Something that we may actually dislike, if we've gotten a little further into it, we may like it, and vice versa. You know, it's
Yep.
like, oh, that's really, oh, that guy did, wait a minute, there's more in here? Oh, good Lord. I'm not going to support that anymore. But yeah, we miss that. The newspaper, I think it's a slow death, if you will, or transition, uh, has been a sad thing to happen. But it's what we are. And as the newspapers begin to become less effective in print, you would find that there were larger corporations buying them up one by one by one. And then you would find that the content started changing to where it was like AP or Scripps Howard News Service, whichever Gannett News Service. So all the local stories started disappearing. And as they did, so did the effectiveness of a newspaper for enjoyment and as a tool in the community.
Right. For a working democracy, Mark, this is what I've actually written like some of the political heads in our country. There needs to be a hands-off, um, accountable media, right?
Yeah.
That's still like to me, if you're looking at in Canadian instance, retired Supreme Court justices should be in charge of evaluating who would be in charge of these organizations so that they remain completely politically neutral, right? And then those should be the two services that should be national and funded with no corporate ownership should be newspapers and media. And they like I don't think it should be allowed that you make profit from selling propaganda
Yeah.
to a population. And that's essentially what they've turned it into, right? And so I I feel like that protects democracy because
Yeah.
like I said before, it holds people accountable. It gets them asking the right questions with no filter, based on facts and for the population at large,
Yeah.
and so that they can make up their own minds about the world out there. And I feel like if you're looking at it from a sports angle, because we are on baseball biz, if you're looking at it, there are so few entities that controlled the baseball information back in the newspaper days, right? So you, like we said, you had your newspaper, that was your source. So in each town, in each newspaper, there was the guy, right? Maybe it was Buster Olney, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, but that's the guy you had to trust. Sometimes there was two or more, sometimes they included some national, but you had to trust those guys. And so if you want to argue for what actually helps, right? So how much more do we digest out of baseball because it's so widespread now and so many people can set up their own little network. So Fangraphs was built and Baseball Savant was built and all that stuff. That is outstanding.
Mhm.
But you still needed the athletic, which is kind
Yeah.
of modeled after a newspaper and is still that democratic thing. It was great. And then all of a sudden it got sold to, you know, because it became for profit and everything else. So, which version of it all is the best one to keep everybody honest and on the same page? To me, the wider the variety, the better. So I'm not
Yeah.
saying you make it like completely illegal that it can't take place. I'm saying that there has to be a competitive, well-built alternative that is nationally, and not for profit. That way people can actually make up their own minds about which ones are factual and which ones aren't.
Well, it's going to be hard to do in this country because we got monster running up ads beside the White House. I like that idea, Matt, and to have somebody who's governing it to the point of making sure that it's not for profit.
Hmm.
And I'll leave you a couple interesting stories about newspapers and marketing. Now, the All-Americans, what they did when they had their teams and talk about promotion, they found a way to make sure they were in the paper all the time. And
Mm.
one of the things they did is they would approach the sports editor at that local paper. So in the town, say South Bend, Indiana, they would approach that sports editor and say, "Hey, we need somebody to keep the score, okay? Somebody to go ahead and do all that. We're going to pay you to do that." So guess what? They're there and they're keeping the score, and that's something that they're doing for all Americans. And oh, and by the way, so while I'm here, I might as well go ahead and write some copy too. And, so they did that. And that I thought that was a good way of doing some marketing. Another good marketing was here in Florida with the spring training. Well, when they brought Babe Ruth to town and spring training, they were paying reporters to come down here and cover it because Florida wanted to get more coverage on spring training to make it more popular back early in the day. So the story is that some of those reporters were paid to come down here by the city. I like the idea of it that said, we're going to find a way to make sure as we're trying to promote spring training in Florida that we're reaching out to them and bringing them in.
So on that premise, right, Shohei Ohtani should be on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan should be broadcasting a baseball game at some point. And
Oh,
like e- so this is what I'm talking about in terms of the marketing, right? There's other podcasts out there and everything else. Like the podcasting world for baseball, John Boy is another good example where there should be a very much closer relationship between Major League Baseball and a lot of those channels that
yeah.
kids and adults are using everywhere. Um, I don't know. I think it's an opportunity. Like
I
it,
think
it
so too.
really is because it hasn't been tapped yet. And when they do, they'll get so much benefit from it that, it should, in theory, lead to a lot of good. But the
Hmm.
other one, like we've said before, is if they set up that second tier for baseball and make it more rivalry, drama oriented, I think combination of those two things would really make the league reach another level.
Wow. Well, now that we've delved into everything from marketing to baseball to, geez, we should probably be talking about W.C. Fields and the Three Stooges somewhere along here. I don't know. What else you want to talk about today, my friend?
I do want to point out a couple of tiny Rays things. I know it is not exactly a Rays centric one today, but we have a couple of promotions that are notable for the Rays affiliates. Emilien Pitre, which is a second baseman in the Rays system. He was an A plus. He's doing really well. He got promoted to Double A. So congrats to him. That's a nice boost. And also, I know I've mentioned him in the past on the show a few times. Michael Forett got moved up to Triple A. So as I was saying with that ticking clock, remember I said 4 to 5, maybe 6 starts, and then boom, I expect him in MLB. His
Hmm.
first start, 7 innings, 7 Ks, 2 earned runs. He looked stellar in AAA. I'm very encouraged with what he did there. There's a few other promotions. Connor Husak ended up in AAA. I don't know if it's long term or just short lived. But it's starting to move, and we know the draft is coming up, so there'll be more promotions coming up as well. But it's always nice to know because Emilien Pitre is an interesting one. Cold weather guy ended up playing through the Rays minors very quickly. He has a lot of promise. He hit his first home run in Double A yesterday. And I feel like he has more abilities than we've seen. So for the last 4 levels he's played, except for one. I think he had a 357 on-base percentage in one of them. He's had a non-base percentage over 400. So he's the kind of guy who walks more than he strikes out.
Hmm.
He's got a really good hit tool, really, really strong eye at the plate, and he plays very well defensively. So as a second baseman, that's somebody that you want to keep an eye on who's now in Double A.
Wow. I mean, it's the fruits of all these. It's interesting because over the years, you've pointed out folks to us, and keep an eye on. And then suddenly they appear. It's like, oh wow, Matt's been talking about him for a couple of years now.
Hmm.
So that's really good to hear about those who are being promoted and who we may or may not see all the way up here onto the Rays platform before you know it, come up for a cup of coffee. I had somebody email me today about Alex Faedo from Tampa. He came up for a sharp bit too, and injuries I think kind of moved him down to the minor league. So we're gonna. I know at the Tampa Baseball Museum they got to make sure we get him credit for being there as well. It's always a great thing being here in Tampa, and all the players are still around. And Lou Piniella is always a fun guy to talk about. I was listening to his book, Lou, and it was interesting because he was one point when he was in Seattle with the Mariners, and they're figuring out, was always figuring out what the lineup's going to be. One of his things though was kind of his salary. They had a bonus if the attendance reached a certain number for the year. And the bonus was $50,000.
Mm.
And he said, I hit that, but I didn't feel like that was just me. So he took the $50,000 and he gave it to Metro United Way there in Seattle. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, in today's world, he wasn't being paid as much as you would think a manager might be at that point. And so that was a piece of cash. It was interesting because he is in Seattle. Somebody else took notice of that, and that was Bill Gates.
Ah.
And Bill Gates said, "Well, if you can put 50,000 up, I can put 50,000 up." It should have been, if you can put 50,000 up, I can put 5 million up. But hey, that's he did that, and the next thing you know, Lou's recounting that Bill Gates came out and visited quite often, would even come into his office.
Mm.
I don't know that he was necessarily invited, but he came in and he would tell Lou what his lineup should be.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. This is before Moneyball and all that. And finally, one night, Lou said, "Oh, let's give it a shot." And damn it, if he wasn't sharp for what was going to be that night, he had his own numbers. However, he was working them pre-Moneyball, and Bill Gates gave Lou Piniella a lineup that he used, and it was successful that evening. And he gives a tip of the hat to Bill Gates for that game.
Oh, you just let the cat out of the bag.
Oh.
That's when the Rays analytics machine was started. Was when Lou and Bill got together and built that secret stash room program, whatever it is that's going
That's the real Rays way.
on. So the question is, does Bill still get a cut?
Oh my gosh. Oh no. No, guys, we're having a lot of fun this week, and there are always some great stories to hear. And by gum, I can't say enough about them. I'm just going to say this one last thing about Lou Piniella. Shame on the Hall of Fame for never having put him in there yet. And if there's a way to do it now. He's a great man. He's done a lot for the community around here. He's nothing he beats his chest about. And that was from a book I read from 10 years ago. I believe he did something like that. So there's a lot of things that he does we don't hear about. And I think that he's been overlooked for too long. A man with as a manager, over 1,850 wins as a
Yeah,
manager. That's,
I agree completely. I think we've spoke about that on the show when we had Larry Rothschild on,
yeah,
where I think we kind of pointed out the competition, if you want to call it that, or the comparables. Um, he compares above most of the most recent managers that have been inducted.
yeah,
So I firmly believe that he should be in there. And at some point, I'm hoping he is, while he's still there to give the speech and be a part of that celebration.
yeah, yeah. Well, with that bit of note, we'll salute Lou and all the great players from the Tampa area and certainly the Tampa Bay Rays. Excited about things going on here. Maybe one day we'll talk again about that stadium issue, but right now it's just another memorandum of understanding. I hear there's a few of those circulating right now, but we'll get there, boys and girls. So, Matt. Once again, thanks, buddy. Glad that we're here together and enjoying another good evening.
Yes, it's been a pleasure. Anytime, Mark. And I'm hoping for a winning streak by the next time we talk.
Amen, brother. Bring them back home. They're coming back soon. So I think Friday, the boys return to the Trop. So get ready for that. Fingers crossed. Thank you all for joining Matt and I here today, and we wish you all the best. And we look forward to talking with you again real soon.
Boom.
If you enjoyed this show, go ahead, like, and subscribe to Baseball Biz on Deck. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on YouTube, at iHeartApple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Also, you can find Matt at matgermain.bskysocial. That's Matt at matgermain.bskysocial, or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bskysocial and Baseball Biz on Deck with Facebook.